Let's take a look at Sunday in the NBA. There are a huge amount of games on, actually. 11 games on. Let's stream in to win the week. Michael Bolton, sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NBA fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd and I'm just chilling in Cedar Rapids, and I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me on Twitter as always at redrock_bball, on TikTok at redrock_bball, and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, use the code LOCKEDONNBA, and get $20 off your first purchase. Check out LockedOnDaily.com as well for the best newsletter for your favorite team. I'm always asking for a thumb and a double bang, and let's hit that 80k subs here on the old YouTube as well. All right, we're talking Sunday, early games. There is a 3 p.m. start, so make sure your lineups are set. If you're in the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Bowl, the second free agent processing time will be pushed forward, as it will be nearly all the time, to 1 hour before the first game, so at 2 p.m. for the second free agent processing time. All right, let's start this thing out by just taking a look at some schedule options before we get into the individual streams for points leagues and for category leagues. There are 4 teams that play the Sunday and then play Monday to begin week 4. So when you're deciding between 2 different players, getting one of these guys helps you to win on Sunday, but then gives you the bonus game on Monday when there aren't very many games on either. We're talking Houston, the Oklahoma City Thunder, the Sacramento Kings, and the Washington Wizards. The other good thing about those 4 teams is I don't really see anybody there that's at risk of resting due to the back-to-back or anything along those lines. Of course, stuff can happen on Sunday that might change my opinion or change the team's opinion on that. But as things stand at the moment, I think we're okay. We'll also take a look at some chunky bits Sunday through to Thursday, the next 5 days. There are 2 11-game days in there, Sunday and Wednesday. It's possible you can have someone in that time and start them. You may not. I don't know. But these players are all available in over 50% of leagues, and they play 3 games the next 5 nights. Now, a lot of these just shouldn't be available anyway. But Neemias Queta with a Boston back-to-back in there. Jalen Brown might be returning. Luke Cornett might be returning. So it is a little bit iffy, but Horford's going to sit one of these games. There's 3 games in 5 nights. It's not a bad option to have a look at Queta there. Keyshawn George and Bub Carrington in Washington. Brogdon and Kuzma aren't going to be back. George did come off the bench last game and they started Valanciunas, but it didn't really matter. George still got his 30-plus minutes, so he's definitely an option. Bub's dealing with a wrist problem, so we'll watch that one, but I think he'll be okay. Tamani Kamara, it's hard to judge last game. It was a real blowout, and minutes were all over the shop for Portland, but the 3 games in 5 nights helps. I do think long-term he won't be able to sustain 12-team value, but that's okay for now. And then the other one's Tari Eason, whose minutes are pushing up. We'll see where they go, but he's got the back-to-back. He's got the 3 games in 5 nights, and he's providing really strong value as a 12-team league player at the moment in those somewhat currently limited minutes. If we take a look at some streaming opportunities now, we will start by looking at both Yahoo and ESPN points leagues, and these guys are all available in over 50% of leagues, and none of them are 100% rostered using our advanced metric either. So for some of you, this will be the guys that are available. For others, you'll be like they're already taken, and that's okay. The bottom 2 names on the list are more widely available players who I think should be able to help you there too. We know that Jalen Duren is not likely to play. He is doubtful for Sunday for the Detroit Pistons, so that means that the big fella, the Flamin' Galah, Alf Stewart, has got to be worth a look. He is not a good player, but opportunity is something that often trumps that. So Stewart is there. Same with Joel Embiid out in Philadelphia. Tyrese Maxey's out. Andre Drummond has not been blowing us away, the big avocado, but the opportunities are there. 30 minutes might be on offing, so you go for it. We got the update finally on Demetrius Ja Morant, who is now week to week with a hip issue, hip strains, hip displacement. That's 4 weeks. It has to be, right? The way that they discuss that, week to week means it's definitely not a week. It's probably not 2. That looks to me to be a 4-week injury for Morant, which again, just another annoying injury caused by things that happen on the court. Really frustrating stuff. So obviously, Scottie Pippen, if for some reason he's available, and he is, because I know he's under 50% rostered, and I know there's not 50% dead leagues, Pippen is a must. It boosts the value of other guys who've been passing a little bit more, like Jake LaRavia as well. Maybe a little bit of the Duck Luke Kennard in there. Jalen Wells struggled last game, but he's also an option. But Pippen's the clear one there. Deeper leagues, maybe you look at old mate Yuki, but I don't think so. He's barely playing. Goga Bitadze, Wendell Carter is out. We don't know when Wendell Carter is returning, so we just have Goga, and then we roll from there. And then Kyle Lowry, who played 30 minutes last game, he's not going to be a huge scorer, but again, opportunity, starting point guard, 30 minutes. We like that. And then Keyshawn George, another Yahoo Points League streaming option, played 34 minutes last game. He will cop somewhat of a hit when Kuzma and Brogdon return, and maybe he comes off the bench and doesn't play 33 minutes, but I don't care. He should be rostered for now, and then we make adjustments later on if necessary. The ESPN Points League list is very similar. We've got Isaiah Stewart, Scott Pippen, Andre Drummond, Goga Bitadze, Kyle Lowry, and Keyshawn George. And by similar, I mean literally identical, just in a slightly different order, with Pippen jumping ahead of Drummond there. But otherwise, it's the same bunch of guys. They are different point-scoring systems, we know that, but the actual difference between them in terms of determining who's going to be your ideal stream guy, it's not that big of a difference, honestly, most of it. And I will do it just to make sure that people in Yahoo or ESPN don't feel left out. And obviously, Locked On Fantasy Basketball Bowl's using the same scoring system as ESPN. And if I'm going to complain about ESPN, which I will, their fantasy point scoring system is probably a little bit better than Yahoo's. But someone will then ask the question, what's the best? No such thing. Just use the default of wherever you are. It's way easier just to use default scoring. Either Yahoo default, ESPN default, it's just the easiest way to do it. There is no perfect system, so wasting your time to try and adjust something to find it doesn't do anything. It's not worth it. It's not worth the effort that you have to put in, and the downsides, I think, outstrip the positives in that sort of situation. We're going to come back and we're going to talk about category leagues in a sec, but today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything that you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So, in the middle of the game, you're watching it, something's going down. You see something that maybe only your specifically trained eye sees. You open up the live bets and all in one place. You can see the live stats, you can see the live play-by-play. Instead of having to go to different spots, it is all there, bang, in that one spot. Go to FanDuel.com today to sign up and get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That is FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. And don't forget to gamble responsibly. Okay. Let's now take a look at streaming options across fantasy category leagues. We're going to attack the 8 main categories and see which guys are available who might be able to, maybe swing that matchup in our favor. We'll start with the points category. I think Isaiah Stewart's got a chance to get 16 or 17 points here. There's always going to be some random bloke who pops off, but I think you're balancing all probabilities. A guy who's going to be a starting center and probably plays 30 plus minutes. He played 33 last game. Has to be in the mix for us. So I think Isaiah Stewart's one of those ones there. Corey Kispert's one of those players who can get hot. I don't love him as a fantasy producer, but that's okay. He's there as well in Washington. Keyshawn George is there in Washington. Both pretty strong points options. In Orlando, we can go to Mo Wagner. He definitely doesn't have as much overall upside as what Goga Bitadze does, but we know that Flaming Mo is more likely to score. He does it really efficiently as well, and Wendell Carter's out, so there's way more opportunity, and with Paolo Banchero out, there are more shots available for Mo as well. In Philadelphia, we'll go to Jared McCain. He played 30 minutes last game. Now, I don't know if that's a realistic target every single game, but he is currently better than my player 2K. That's what I'm trying to say. My 2K, my player, generated legend, Reggie Jackson. Wow, that was a tortured joke. I apologize for that. Jared McCain's better than him. So McCain played 30 last game. He can score. That's what he does. And if you're looking for just someone who's literally available everywhere, Big Jared might be the one to go for. Caleb Martin also is a scoring option, mainly just because of security of roles, a relative security of minutes. With no Maxi, no Embiid, he's going to start. He probably plays 30. He can have 17, he can have 12, but there's at least a level of security in that floor. And, like I said, he's just available everywhere. A lot of the time, points and three-pointers do correlate, so a lot of the guys are similar on this list. But the number one three-point guy I'm looking at is Keyshawn George, followed by old mate Jared McCain, who that's what he did in college. That's what he did in Duke. He wasn't a passer. He was a shooter, and he hit 40% of threes, and some considered him to be one of the best shooters, if not the best shooter coming out of the draft, I guess up there with Reed Shepherd. But he's got an ability to do that, and now the minutes are in place for him to show us a little bit of what he can do. Timmy Hardaway is always that 7 3-pointer upside. You could also just substitute his name out there with Leaky Beasley. Both of those guys can play decent minutes in Detroit. Both of those guys can hit 7 threes, and both of those guys can shoot 1 of 9 for 11%. that is the yin and yang of old mates Tim Hardaway and Malik Beasley. Corey Kispert, if the man doesn't do anything else, it's hit threes. That's it. That's what he does. So if you're looking to stream him, you might as well have a crack. And that's what Isaiah Joe does as well. I don't know if it's his turn on the starting merry-go-round for the Thunder. In fact, I've given up caring. But he gets 21 minutes every night. Basically, it might push even further. He can go 6 of 6 for 3, have 18 points in 18 minutes. That's what Isaiah Joe is paid to do. And that's what the Thunder let him do. The last name on this list is Grayson Allen. Now, his minutes are well down, obviously. He's trying to find where he fits, and Budenholzer is trying to fit the role for him there very clearly. But again, if there's one thing he does, it's threes. 12 points, 4 threes, easy. Like, that is definitely what Grayson Allen could do. And he doesn't need 30 minutes to do that. He could have 6 points with 2 threes in 18 minutes as well, of course. But we're always trying to balance probabilities. You're never going to nail it exactly. I'm never going to come back and go, well, you know what? The guy that hit the most threes was Keyshawn George, and then second was McCain, then Hardaway, then Kispert, then Joe, then Allen. We nailed it. And that's not the aim of this, because you can't do it. It's about, like, what are the likelihoods of these scenarios happening? Who's got the opportunity? Who's got the track record? Who's got the chance to do this? Who's got an up-paced game? All that sort of stuff is where we go. And there will be mistakes, always. But that's how we try and balance this stuff out, through probabilities and likelihood, which, of course, mean the same thing. Let's talk about rebounds. Back to the big blokes. Isaiah Stewart sits at the top. The Flamin' Galah is straight out of the Surf Club and into the Detroit Pistons starting lineup. Is this... go and look at Isaiah Stewart's stats for the season and have a look at his three-point attempt rate. After 3 seasons of them trying to turn him into a shooter and a power forward, he just doesn't take him anymore. Shout out to Detroit, wasting 3 years of whatever that was the last couple of years. Neemias Queta is there as well. Yeah, Cornette and Brown could play, which would impact Queta, but I still think he's at least worth a look. In Charlotte, there is obviously no BDNR Nick Richards, there's no Mark Williams, there's no Miles Bridges, so we're going to get a dose of Moussa Diabate. Now, last game, Diabate grabbed a ton of rebounds. Did he even score? I think he might have had like double-digit boards and no points, the old Reggie Evans. But that's good. Like, we're looking for rebounds, and our minutes at center are between Taj Gibson and Moussa Diabate. Well, there's a chance that Moussa can be the guy. It could be Taj, but it could be Moussa. Dwight Powell also. And you say, what am I talking about? Why would we be considering streaming in? Look at those names. Honestly, just actually take a second, screenshot this if you like. But these are legitimate names who could be options on your wire to win rebounds. And the first one, Isaiah Stewart, sure. Some think he's good. They're wrong, but that's okay. And then look at the next group. Neemias Queta, Moussa Diabate, old mate Mavericks legend Dwight Powell. He is the Mavericks cockroach. He's there because Derek Lively's out, because Derek Lively and PJ Washington are doubtful. So they're not going to play. So Dwight might play 21 minutes. Mason Plumlee, the actual cockroach. He might play 17 minutes. He might get 7 rebounds. And the last one is Caleb Martin, a small forward masquerading as a power forward who's had a couple of double-digit rebounding games. But that is a list. Queta, Diabate, Powell, and Plumlee. What a murderer's row of legendary centers that you definitely don't want on your fantasy team as a regular thing, but it's all about playing the short term, all about playing the opportunities, and that's exactly, I think, what we're trying to do here. If we take a look at the assist options, I don't think there's really any other direction you can go than old mate Kyle Lowry. Yeah, he's a million years old. Yeah, he might take 3 shots, but he can have double-digit assists. He is the starting point guard for the Sixers, and that is going to, if he can do nothing else, and he can't, he will deliver assists. That's what he does. So yeah, an excellent stream option for that. The second guy on this list is Mr. Black. Anthony Black started a few games when Paolo was out. He sucked. He went back to the bench, and Tristan da Silva started. And guess what? Tristan da Silva sucked as well. And we're seeing Mr. Black's minutes push up even further. He's not going to be efficient. He's not going to take many shots, but he can get some steals. And he can get 6 or 7 assists as well. It's going to come down to where his minutes lie, but it is, as we are well aware and as we have stressed a million times through the preseason and through draft season, finding assists off the waiver wire is almost impossible. Look at these names. These are not good names. These are not names to inspire confidence. It shouldn't. They shouldn't, because the third name on this list is Jake LaRavia, a power forward. Now, he is a pretty good passer, and with no Morant, no Bane, no Smart, no every other dickhead under the sun, LaRavia is going to have an opportunity to get 4 or 5 of them. Same with Grant Williams, who's going to play some center and play some power forward in Charlotte. He can pass a little bit. He won't take shots, but there's 4 or 5 assists possibly coming there. Spencer Dinwiddie. Luka Doncic, I believe, is on the injury report with a questionable tag. So if he is out, which I don't know, Dinwiddie can get 6 or 7 as well. And then the last one is Najee Marshall. Very much in the Jake LaRavia mold. Marshall has way higher assist rates than you'd think he does. And again, if Luka is not there, like Marshall's going to start anyway because PJ's out. But if Luka goes away, then Najee could have a 5 or 6 assist game. That's a lot of desperation. It's a lot of hope that we're waiting for those things to happen. But, it could. It could happen. It also might not, but it could. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time Picks. Yes, Game Time Picks. Well, actually, it's brought to you by Game Time, but they want me to tell you that Game Time Picks is the new thing that they've got, and they're always bringing out something new. It's so hard to keep up, but I'm here to keep you up on what Game Time has. Game Time Picks is the new feature on Game Time that finds the best tickets and shows them to you. It cuts out the fluff. The garbage has gotten out of here, and it shows you what the good options are to get those tickets for your favorite sports team or favorite event. In fact, I still haven't learned how to pronounce it, but the Choque de Gigantes tournament is on in Miami, featuring Venezuela, Puerto Rico, and the DR between the 8th of November and 10th of November. And Game Time's actually offering a 10% off deal on the Choque de Gigantes tickets. The duration of that deal runs now until the 11th. Dates are reversed here. The thing goes until the 10th. There you go. So you got like a day to go. So go in there, check that out. Along with all the other deals that they've got over at Game Time, you've got the all-in pricing, which you toggle on the app to see what the full price is of the tickets. You have got the views from your seat, panoramic views, to know exactly what you're going to see when you arrive at Lloyd Ballpark. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create the account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Okay. Let's dig in now and take a look at the steals. Keon Ellis sits at number 1. He's the obvious steals target. Michael Brown can do things at any point to annoy us with his role, but he's probably your best option out there. Cam Reddish replaced D'Angelo Russell in the starting lineup last game for the Lakers, which is just unbelievable to me. I know D-Lloyd goes through this every year. I'm not dropping him yet, but because you get fooled by this a million times, but it's frustrating. But all Reddish does is get steals, so an option. Cason Wallace, again, this is what he does. And this is where we can find quite a lot of steals on the waiver wire, to be honest. Kyle Lowry, you've heard his name been brought up a couple of times. He's not as much of a steals merchant as those top 3 players, but you get the other stuff with him. Caleb Martin, also not a bad steals guy. Same with Keyshawn George, another player who gets a few of those, and that's largely just through to those extra minutes. In terms of blocks, Isaiah Stewart just through bulk of minutes. Neemias Queta, maybe, depending on the situation. I do think there's a value there. Donovan Clingan, well, it does get a little bit more complicated with the Rock DJ Robbie Williams returning, but Clingan can still get his 2 blocks in 12 minutes, and that's worth looking at. Big fella Jay Huff as well. He's a good blocks player. Another guy, again, with a lot of those absences in Memphis. He's getting his 15 minutes a night. That's strong. And then we get to Jaden McDaniels, who's not as high of a blocks upside player, but he's at least more of a floor blocks player. And the other one is Paul Reed, who can play 15 minutes and get 3 blocks, or he could get 0. And that's the difference between those guys. If I feel like I want 1 block, Jaden will get it. But if I want a 4-block upside player like Stewart gets hurt or in foul trouble and Reed has to play 26, well, Paul Reed's the guy. And that is how you play those different scenarios differently, depending on where you're positioned. If we take a look at the percentage categories, this takes into consideration percentage and volume. We go to Mo Wagner at the top. He's a high efficiency, high volume player. Neemias Queta, Jackson Hayes, Isaiah Stewart, Dwight Powell, and the Rock DJ Robbie Williams. And for free throw percentage, Grayson Allen barely misses, doesn't take many of them, but you might get a 2 of 2 night from him. Jared McCain, Dylan Brooksy Brooks, Isaiah Joe, Kyle Lowry, and lastly, the Duck, Luke Kennard. And that's your little Sunday preview. Try to stream in those categories when there are 11 games on. You might have the opportunity. You might have enough injuries to open up some spots due to IL things. That is possible. Have a look at it. Prioritize the Sunday, Monday back-to-backs if you can. And also check out the Week 4 preview show I did earlier on today. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.